in your life on this Sunday, December 8th, 2024. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our UFC 310 post-show. I'm Ariel Helwani. Great job by the guys all night long. Very entertaining watch party. Very entertaining card, and it ends in spectacular fashion. Final UFC pay-per-view of 2024. There's one event left, of course. That's the one next weekend in Tampa. We'll talk about that all week long, and some crumbs to get us to there, some connective tissue, if you will. But 310 in Vegas, which is where I just was a few hours ago. I was in Las Vegas. I don't know if you guys saw at the MMA Awards show. Thank you very much for that. We can talk about that on Monday. We're here to talk about the final UFC pay-per-view of the year. And we were saying all week long, it was a sneaky good card. It was a loaded card. It had a lot of familiar names. And I would say overall it delivered. I would say overall there were some highs, some lows, some exciting moments, some depressing moments. But it was capped off by what Alexandre Pantoja just did in the octagon seconds ago. He defeats Kai Asakura in Asakura's UFC debut. Much was made about the fact that Kai was coming over to the UFC, making his debut, fighting for the belt in his debut. He could potentially be the first Japanese-born UFC champion. That was a big deal. You saw Nobuyuki Sakakibara, formerly of Pride, now of Rizin, there to cheer on his guy, Asakura, former bantamweight champion for Rizin. And then what about the nice touch of hearing our very own Lenny Hart, of course, known primarily for her work with Pride, but now with Rizin as well, a staple of the Japanese MMA scene, welcoming Kai Asakura to the octagon. How amazing was that? How incredible was that? She wasn't there live, but they played her voice, and I thought that was a beautiful touch, especially for the old heads. In the end, though, tough to win in your UFC debut when you're fighting in the main event against someone as good as Pantoja. And the size difference was very apparent, if you ask me. We saw yesterday that an hour after the weigh-ins, Asakura, who has dabbled at 125 very early in his career, but not as of late, gained already 11 pounds. I would absolutely love to know how much he actually weighed on Saturday night. Came out there, made it spectacular, was going for flying knees, was trying to do a whole bunch of stuff. The first round was captivating. I love the first round. It was being fought at an extremely high pace. In the end, I gave it to Alexandre Pantoja, and in the second round, he wins via rear naked choke. That's his third successful title defense. He continues to dominate. He is the face of the flyweight division. There's no doubt. He has also tied both Demetrius Johnson and Joseph Benavidez for most wins at 125 pounds. Think about that. Most wins. Obviously, DJ came in and made his debut part of that tournament and then ended up fighting for the belt shortly thereafter. He had the two tournament fights and then fought for the belt. Unbelievably, he's just tied Demetrius Johnson. I don't think a lot of people knew that. In addition to that, he has also tied Demetrius Johnson and Davis Figueiredo for most finishes at 125 with 7. So 13 wins at 125, 7 stoppages, and now his third successful title defense. That puts him at second as far as title defenses are concerned, I do believe. But number one is Demetrius Johnson with 11. So he's got a ways to go. And, he's no spring chicken, if you will. I believe he's 34 years old, but it's all coming together for him right now. He is, in fact, 34, the pride of Rio. And afterwards, he's so likable. He's so easy to root for. His fights deliver. They're always fun. They're always fast-paced. They're always exciting. Does he talk trash? No. He is kind of coming into his own, if I do say so myself. He's got the aura. He's got the vibe. He's got the clothes. It just felt like he's. Sometimes it takes people a fight or two to kind of grow into being the man, grow into being the champion. And I feel like he's doing that. I felt it this week. I felt it tonight. And his post-fight interview, great as always, great scenes with his family, with his friends, with his teammates. But then at the end, so you're sitting there, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, who the hell is this guy going to fight? Like, seriously, who is of interest? He just had to fight a debutante and it was great. But that just kind of shows how how dominant he's been. We thought maybe another Japanese-born fighter could be in line for a title shot in 2025, and that was Tatsuro Taira, but he lost to Brandon Royval. You saw Brandon Royval sitting there. Lest we forget, he has 2 wins, and rather decisive ones over Brandon Royval. One exactly a year ago, December of 2023, the final UFC pay-per-view of last year, and he also submitted Brandon Royval via rear naked choke in August of 2021. Wins over Steve Erceg, wins over Royval, Moreno, Perez, Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, Manel Cape. That's the run that he's on right now. Does have a loss to Askar Askarov, but I don't think that rematch is happening. Does have a loss to Davidson Figueiredo, and that would be fascinating theater, but Figueiredo now, of course, fighting at 135 pounds. If you look at the UFC rankings, at 125 pounds, there's Royval, there's Moreno, who is coming off a nice win. I could see a Moreno rematch before a third fight against Royval. There's Amir Albazi, who Moreno just skunked. There's Kai France out there, who I wouldn't mind seeing as well. He could be an option, and then it gets to Taira and Perez. But at the very end of that post-fight interview, he says, DJ, you think you're the GOAT? I'm the man. Come out of retirement and come fight me. And I have to say, is there a part of me that sits? DJ ain't doing this. He's done. He's happy. He's content. But what if the UFC just said, come on, DJ, one last time? He even has fights on his one channel. It's not going to happen. But just the idea of those 2 guys fighting each other would be incredible. I would be shocked if it happens. One letting him go. I guess maybe if he spoke to Chatri and just said, look, it worked out. It was great. It was a nice run. Just let me go do this. Sure. But it's sort of like the John Jones, Tom Aspinall thing. There's always going to be someone, and he probably thinks at this point, what's the point? I'm just saying selfishly, and I think I'm speaking for all of you as well when I say this, I saw the guys react to it. That would be a dream. That would be the absolute best. I would love to see. Can we do it in Seattle? They just announced Seattle, February 22nd. DJ coming back home to Seattle to fight for the belt. Could you just imagine one more time, especially with his newfound fame, with the podcast and everything that he's doing? He's so likable. He's such an ambassador for the sport. Who doesn't like DJ? And it feels like more people love and respect him now, post-fighting, if you will, than they did when he was killing everyone and getting, those 11 successful title defenses on his resume. I would love to see it. If I had to probably pick one person who I think is maybe in the driver's seat right now, it's probably Kai France, who's currently ranked 4th. We'll see what they do with him. And maybe it's just one of those situations where he chills for a little bit and lets things play out. But there's not a ton of options at the moment. For now, though, doesn't really matter. Let's celebrate this guy. Amazing what he's done. There was a time where he lost 2 of 3 to Figueiredo and to Askarov with a Matt Schnell win sandwiched in between. Yes, that was 5 years ago, but I don't think a lot of people were saying this guy was championship material. I don't think a lot of people were saying this is the guy who's going to start threatening Demetrius Johnson, and even having the chutzpah to call out a Demetrius Johnson, and people actually being like, hell yeah, not laughing him off, not saying this is ridiculous, saying, hell yeah, sign me up for that. I don't think a lot of people would have been saying that when he was losing to Dustin Ortiz. So there's a lot that you could say about Pantoja, but in my opinion, the way he handles himself, the way he continues to get better, the shape that he's in, his killer instinct, he goes for finishes, his speed, his athleticism, his technique, he just seems like, we need to start. I was going to bring up the pound for pound. He does have the complete game. There's no doubt about it. He does have the. Is he the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world? I don't freaking
talk
know.
to him.
Is he number 1? Is he actually number 1?
There's a case, man. There's a case.
Who's dominating like him? Who's dominating like him?
Why don't people bring him up?
I'm wondering the same thing, my brother. I don't know.
Is it because of the?
Yeah, it's small.
No. I actually wasn't even going to say that. To be honest,
what were you going to say?
He doesn't brag
on the mic. He's not braggadocious.
Yeah,
I like the DJ call out. That was the most we kind of
DJ call was fantastic.
DJ call kind of blew my mind for a second because he's talked about it before, but this is the first time where I was like, holy fuck, this would be incredible.
And it's literally no one else to fight. He has cleared out the entire division.
It's the flyweight thing.
Like you talk about Kai France, he has a win over Kai France from Tough. Like
but tough.
Yeah, he still beat him, dude. Like he's beaten everyone.
DJ was here.
Tough ones. I mean, he beat Brandon Moreno. Didn't he beat Brandon Moreno in Tough too?
And then 2 more times
in the UFC.
Yeah, I don't know. What do we do?
DJ or nothing.
All right, so I have to say, unfortunately, DJ just last night was watching One Fight Night 26 and tweeted that YouTube money's too good to come back to fight. Just last night.
What do you mean? What do you mean the YouTube money?
He's making too much on YouTube.
He's got 900,000 subscribers. He's making bank off of YouTube.
He's making too much to come out of retirement.
I thought you meant like YouTube influencer, like fighting one of those guys.
Oh, no. He's saying like the YouTube money is too good to come back.
Yes, please. I need his response.
I mean, I just texted him. I see what you mean. Okay.
Tweeted it just last night.
Really?
Find out whatever YouTube money he's making, double it, and let's get this done.
Someone call up Michael Wantz over right now and let's see. Let's see YouTube Studio. Let's get that Google AdSense money. I would love to see it. It's a massive. By the way, we can't forget he retired from one. He had fights left on his one contract. Chatri isn't just going to let him like walk out the door. It is very much a long shot. Now, I'm sure the UFC, if they cut a nice check and they could figure something out, there's always, who would have thought that he would have been traded for Ben Askren. But I am really struggling with anyone. Now, here's the other thing. Who would have thought Kai Asakura would be fighting for the belt in his UFC debut? Is there anyone even out there that they can they make a trade for Patchy Mix and see if he can make 125? Probably not. By the way, what do you think Muhammad Makayev is thinking right now?
That could have been.
He probably would be the guy, right?
Yep.
He probably would have been the guy.
Forget it. He served his timeout. He served his punishment. Bring him back and let's find out. They've got nobody else. They've got nothing.
There really is just.
He probably is the guy, right?
He was going to be the guy.
Am I the only one hearing crackling when you guys come on? Am I crazy hearing static? Am I the only one?
I hear it clean, but
it's same here. Yeah.
I also hear it clean.
Clean.
All right. Well, I guess I am the only one.
What's Askar Askarov up to these days? That's his last loss.
I know. Let's see. Askar Askarov.
He's fought once since that split decision loss to Kai France.
November 2023. Yeah, I'm sure they could cut a deal to bring him back. You think that does big business?
Yeah, Askarov. Massive numbers. No, I don't know. Biggest numbers obviously is DJ, like without a shadow of a doubt. But it feels like there's just too many hoops to jump through.
No. I honestly was kind of shocked at the 13 wins. You just kind of forget about his longevity and his dominance that actually ties Demetrius Johnson and Joseph Benavidez. Like that's flyweight royalty right there. Those are arguably the two best flyweights. Well, obviously DJ, but you can make a case even though Joseph Benavidez didn't win the belt that he's number 2 all time. It just so happened that he kept having to fight Demetrius Johnson. So an impressive win, an impressive moment for Alexandre Pantoja. That was the main event. We'll have plenty of time to discuss what he could do next. Let's talk about the people's main event now. Let's talk about what happened in the co-main event. And it was a big one with massive stakes attached. It was Shavkat Rakhmonov, the pride of Kazakhstan, the nomad, going up against Ian Machado Garry, the pride of Ireland. And in the end, it was Shavkat, who we all remember was supposed to fight for the belt on this night against Bilal Muhammad. More on him in a moment. And Bilal gets hurt, and he says, I want to remain. So they call upon Ian Garry, who's supposed to fight next week. You know the whole story by now. And in the end, it was Shavkat who won a pretty, I think, easy fight to score in that I thought it was 48-47 for Shavkat. 1-2 Shavkat, 3 Ian, 4 Shavkat, Ian 5. The 5th round was by far the best round of them all. And you're seeing some of the scenes right here. Shavkat had him. He took his back, had him in the figure 4 for a moment. It looked like the arm was starting to creep in under the neck there. There was a brief moment where you were like maybe a 5-second stretch where you were like, is this actually happening? Is he going to pull this off? but in the end, Shavkat gets out of it. He survives, and he wins via decision. I thought, a solid. You have to remember this. Shavkat was playing, he was playing a dangerous game. He had a title shot. He was basically putting the title shot to the middle of the table and was gambling. He wanted to stay. He wanted to fight. He didn't want to go back home with no fight. He wanted to get paid. He had been inactive for quite some time. And so if maybe you're sitting back and being like, I'm not blown away by that, remember this. That's the first time in Shavkat's career, that's the first time in his 19-fight pro career that he's gone the distance. Every other fight, including all the fights in the UFC, have ended via KO, TKO, or submission. Remember that. I'm not implying in any way, shape, or form that he was playing it, he was playing it safe or he was being timid or anything like that. But A, he's fighting a top-level guy. B, he's going 5 rounds. And C, there was a lot at stake here. So maybe if he doesn't take that extra, that extra risk or anything like that, I'm okay with it. In the end, he gets to win, and he gets his title shot back, and he's 1,000% the number one contender. I don't care what happens next week. But here's where it gets really interesting. I actually think Ian Garry's stock went up in this fight. I actually feel like more people respect Ian Garry for A, taking the fight, B, going the distance with Shavkat, and being the only guy to do so, going 5 rounds, and getting him in a very tough spot in the 5th and final round. I think Ian Garry's in a position now where people respect him, where people think that he has arrived and he belongs. Obviously, the best case scenario would have been the win. This being, the worst case, he lost, but not really the worst case in that he didn't get supremely dominated. He didn't get knocked out. He didn't get submitted. He hung in there, and he was in it until the very end. And so I think next week, Buckley, Colby, especially if it's Colby, if Colby wins, you book that fight. If Colby loses, wouldn't hate seeing it either because there's such a history there and there's a lot of bad blood. But I don't think Ian Garry is that far away from being right back in this spot, meaning fighting for a title shot. I would even argue that he's 1 win away from being right back in there. 1 win away from even getting a title shot, to be honest, depending on who that person is, and there's time to figure it out. But I was really impressed with his poise. I was impressed with his freaking, cojones for stepping up and taking this fight when a lot of people didn't want to do it. They felt like it was too big of a risk. Shavkat wins. He was the favorite. He got the title shot. The universe corrects itself. You'd hate to see him lose that, because of his opponent, the champion Bilal Muhammad, getting injured. But I really do think Ian has gained a massive amount of respect from a lot of people who weren't willing to give him respect, who weren't willing to buy. They thought maybe he was trying too hard. They thought maybe he was too cocky. They thought maybe he was just, some guy, whatever, playing Conor McGregor, whatever the hell it is. I don't feel like that's the case anymore. And I feel like a lot of people love and respect him, and they should after that performance. Now, afterwards, Shavkat Rakhmonov gets on the microphone and he says, Bilal, come in here, let's go. And this was a bit of a clunky scene. I mean, if we were grading face-offs via aura, I think this was like a minus 10,000 aura as far as face-offs. Like Rampage and Rashad, it was not. Izzy DDP, it was not. Let's see, what are some other famous ones? GSP Matt Hughes, it was not. First of all, I guess it took Bilal a while to get into the cage, and Joe Rogan was like, hey, security doesn't know that you're a champ. I don't think he was trying to take a shot at him, but I could see a lot of people running with that and doing like the remember the name gimmick. But just even like the face-off. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Like that was not exactly. It probably would have been better not doing the face-off. I feel like that didn't exactly sell the fight.
It wasn't very fiery. It took a while to get Bilal in there, and then they were just too respectful to each other, and then it was done.
He should have been in there from the jump. If he wasn't, then you punt on that.
Also, like the Joe Rogan being like, "Oh, security's not letting him through."
Just kind of walked in there, just like
no, man, we don't know who you are, dude. It's crazy.
It just didn't feel big. It didn't feel big.
Nah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm interested in the fight. I think it's going to be solid. There's now people saying that. I think there's a lot of people probably who thought going into that fight, Shavkat's going to smoke Bilal, and I think after this performance, I think a lot of people are like, you know what, Bilal has a strong chance. I feel like the tide is turning a little bit. Do you guys understand what I'm saying though about the Shavkat thing? Because I'm sensing that people weren't wowed by the performance.
Yeah, of course. It's the first time he's gone to a decision. He's finished every one, and it was a very close 48-47 fight that, like, if he doesn't get that takedown in round 4, he probably doesn't win the fight, period. Almost got choked out in round 5. It's like we're seeing him as a mortal now, rather than this superhuman dude.
I think it would be a gross underestimation of what Ian Garry is capable of to have that as your takeaway. I think Ian Garry is an extremely good fighter and fought an extremely good fight. And for Shavkat to not be able to just blow the doors off him says more to me about how good Ian Garry is than how quote-unquote mortal Shavkat is.
And that's why I feel like his stock doesn't go down. I feel like he's one or two away from being right back in the spot, or even 1 or 2 away from fighting for the belt.
Ian Garry Leon in London.
Oh my gosh, would love to see that so badly, but that's a pretty quick turnaround. What is it? 3 months?
3.5 months. You're right. A little indigestion.
It's a little hiccup.
No, it's just yes.
Late.
Comes in
I
twos.
get it. Yeah, I get it.
In any event, we're probably going to see that title fight sometime. I would say, I don't know, April, May, June. Feels like a June title fight if we ever saw one. But let's see how it all pans out. Congratulations to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov was highly controversial. In the end, Ciryl Gane wins via split decision. A lot of people, including myself, thought that Alexander Volkov won the fight 29-28. It was 29-28 for Volkov and then 29-28 for Ciryl Gane. A, not the most exciting fight of all time, but B, I thought Volkov had done enough. Volkov kind of surprised all of us rocking the cornrows. He looked very Paddy Pimblett-esque with those, and it just it just wasn't a tremendous fight. Ciryl Gane saying afterwards that he broke his toe. Bit of a mid fight, and there was a bit of a weird scene afterwards. I mean, just look at that photo right there. That guy lost. And then when they announced that Ciryl Gane had won, he walked out of the cage, and the assumption was kind of like, oh, he's upset. I don't know if he misunderstood. I don't know if he just didn't feel like speaking. You're looking at the scorecards right now. Adelaide Bird with the 2 10-9s for Ciryl Gane in the first 2 rounds, and then gave the third to Volkov. Eric Cologne gives the first to Ciryl Gane. The second round was the big issue, the dissenter, if you will, because he gave Volkov the second round, and then back to Junichiro Kamijo, he gave the second round to Ciryl Gane. Ciryl walked out of the cage, and then his coach Fernand Lopez brought him back in, and I couldn't quite tell if that was an indication that they thought they lost and he was upset, or that he just didn't feel like speaking, or maybe he was just in a lot of pain. He seemed to imply that as well. But we were talking last week about, all right, if in fact they go with Alex Pereira versus John Jones, is it possible that we're going to see another title defense for Tom Aspinall? And if it is, then it's probably Ciryl Gane. He gets the win, so you could still make the fight, but I feel like people may be less interested in the fight after this performance. I don't know if it was I saw, some people saying it was the worst robbery in the history of robberies, the worst decision in the history of the UFC. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was just it comes down to one round. When all the judges agree on 1 and 3, and there's one round where there's some sort of dissension, I don't know if that's a robbery per se, but I did think that Volkov won. In fact, I wrote it out. I wrote out the tweet that he had won. I was like, oh shit, did not expect that. I thought it was 29-28 for Alexander Volkov. These things happen in MMA. You guys agree with that one?
No, we had Gane. I mean, sorry, we had Volkov.
29-28?
29-28. 2 and 3 to Volkov, first to Gane.
Yeah.
I had a 30-27 Gane, actually. I wasn't.
Volkov. You had
Volkov.
27 Volkov.
What's
Yeah.
going on over there?
You got him choked up because you
Whoa,
were.
something funny back here, man. I'm not
He's getting
even.
emotional. He's getting emotional.
You're making fun of my indigestion. And,
Yeah, and then I'm the one that gets indigestion. Just choked on my spit. Real old man move there. I had a 30-27 Volkov, man. I was shocked by the decision. I thought it was a horrible decision. I thought Volkov won the fight. Thought they robbed him of that win.
You're right,
Yeah.
though. Rounds 1 and 3 are the same, right? It comes down to one round, and it was a close round. It was, in my opinion, not as close as the first. I actually thought the first was closer and harder to score.
First was incredibly close.
But it was
I'm
a close
surprised
round.
that they gave it to Cyril on all 3 scorecards. Also, like, I know it's a cumulative over the fight and everything, but, like, man, the statistics don't look good either for Cyril Gane's case. And then just the way the fight ended and then him immediately walking out. And, yeah, I don't know. I thought Volkov won.
The hard part is it is so clear that John Jones and Tom Aspinall are, like, 10 miles removed from everybody else in this division. It doesn't help. It makes it look like a very shallow division because nobody else is in their universe at this point.
According to UFC stats, and they don't always tell the story, but total strikes: Cyril Gane 48 of 66, Volkov 105 of 140 as far as landed and thrown. In the first round, 17 of 20 for Cyril Gane, 12 of 18 for Volkov. Second round, a lot more activity, 27 of 39 for Cyril Gane, 25 of 47 for Volkov. Third round, not much from Cyril Gane, 4 of 7 compared to 68 of 75 for Alexander Volkov. So not exactly one to write home about. And I would say the middle 2 fights there on the pay-per-view sort of fell into that bucket because I think a lot of us were surprised that Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie were put on the main card, especially with the likes of Aljamain Sterling and Movsar Evloev on the prelims and with so many big names on the prelims. And I think a lot of us were expecting this fight to be weird. And I would say that it was delightfully weird in a way. Kron Gracie had not fought since May of 2023. He was on a 2-fight losing streak, and then all of a sudden this fight gets added to UFC 310 against Bryce Mitchell, who is his own brand of weird, if you will, but a supremely talented fighter coming off a knockout, a pretty harsh knockout loss almost exactly a year ago, last pay-per-view of the year last year. And in the end, he knocks out Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie, in a very strange sequence where Kron Gracie tries to essentially pull guard by wrapping his legs around Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell slams him to the ground, reminiscent of Matt Hughes and Carlos Newton back in the day, and that seemed to have rocked Kron Gracie, and then some elbows from the top in his guard knocked him out. But it was just Kron just felt kind of like listless out there, and just like a strange vibe about him, a weird one. Even his former sensei, even his former. I just got a funny text that I'll tell you about it in a moment. Even his former sensei, Cesar Gracie, weighed in and said, "What did he say?" I have the tweet here, unless it's up on the
right
screen.
here.
It's up. All right. Sorry. There's so many things on my screen right now. Never a good idea to pull guard in MMA like that. Never. Yeah, no kidding. This sort of like, this sort of way to compete in MMA as a jiu-jitsu artist to just try to pull guard and get like, it doesn't work in 2024. And we saw that come into play. I don't know how much of a future Kron Gracie has in the UFC. And then when you couple it with yesterday's incident at the weigh-ins with bottles being thrown from his team to Makhachev's team. I know we saw a video of Nate Diaz doing it, who was in his corner. I don't know if others were doing it. I don't know who started it. I don't know who incited it. But I know the UFC, aren't exactly thrilled with Nate these days after the departure in the Jake Paul fight. I could see a part of them being like, we're good. I could see that. Still very talented, still a great story, still a great backstory, still a famous last name and a famous father and all this stuff. But there has to be some evolution there. So I'm curious to see what they do with him. And good on Bryce Mitchell. He hit us with the He hit us with the truth that there is, in fact, only one person who can make America great again, and it's not Donald Trump, but it's Jesus. And that is an interesting twist, considering the scenes last year. Do you think he would have said that if Trump was sitting cage side?
Probably.
1,000%.
Honestly, knowing Bryce, yeah.
Yes. I got a text from Demetrius Johnson.
Tell us.
I wrote to him. What do you mean?
One too,
Light flex.
No, I was telling you guys I was texting him, so I told you I would
tell us what he texted or what?
Yes, I'm setting it up, for fuck's sake. You guys testy back there. I wrote to him, you see that? He wrote, LOL, I ain't coming back. So,
which is
he also
just tweeted. I got offered $2 million to fight. I turned it down. I don't care to fight anymore. YouTube video dropping soon.
Damn it.
This also, we had a super chat come in from Thugger saying, do we really think Dana, who erased DJ and Francis, will sack up and bring DJ back? What if DJ wants an apology? This, albeit, was before you got that text.
Well, it's funny. Dana White was asked that in the post-fight press conference, and he said, I don't know, that's interesting. He did not shut it down immediately.
Yeah, but the thing is, he has a contract with one. It ain't happening. Dana White is, in fact, at the post-fight press conference as we are speaking on the call-out of one Demetrius Johnson, and these notes are from the great Aaron Bronstetter of Sportsnet in Canada. That's interesting. I was the one beating the drum about Demetrius Johnson a long time ago. White mentions it was Asakura's first time fighting in a cage, and he came out flying. That's a good point that I hadn't heard brought up. Did you guys mention that? First time in a cage?
Nope.
Interesting. He came out flying out of the gates, which he did, and Pantoja then put the heat on him and dominated. He wishes that we would have gotten 3 more rounds of what we saw. Couldn't agree more. It was a lot of fun. White also said that Shavkat versus Garry didn't play out the way that he thought it would, but we saw a lot out of both guys, and he's glad that it was 5 rounds and it was the right decision. They know each other. There was a lot at stake. I don't think it was like such a crazy thought that it would play out like that. He also adds that 2024 was the best year in UFC history, and he feels like every subsequent year ends up being the best in company's history. He likes to break records, wants to continue to set those milestones, and has a few in sight for 2025. Dana White says that he doesn't have a comment on the verdict of Conor McGregor's civil trial and says that McGregor hasn't fought in the UFC a long time. He also said that he wasn't supposed to be at UFC 311, but now he's changed his plans, and that's the one next. That's the one next month. So back to the card. Bryce Mitchell with the win over Kron Gracie to kick things off as far as the main card is concerned. We did get a great one between Doo Ho Choi and Nate the Train Landwehr. A lot of people, including our own Ben Folks, was banging the drum all week long about this fight. It delivered, but it was quite one-sided. It was clinical stuff from Korean Superboy. It was, I would say, one-way traffic from the jump. He did win via third round TKO, elbows from Crucifix, just absolutely beating up Nate Landwehr, who is tough as nails. He's tougher than a $2 steak, as the great Jim Ross loved to say back in the day. But great to see Korean Superboy back on track now. His second win in a row, 2 great wins. Maybe doesn't win the award for comeback fighter of the year, but that's 2 wins in 2024. Came back last year after the 4-year hiatus and fought to a draw, if you recall, against Kyle Nelson. In 2024, back in July, he beats Bill Algeo via left hook knockout, and then tonight, Nate Landwehr. And again, blowing me away that he's fought in the UFC for 10 years. That's insane. Great to see Korean Zombie in his corner. That was really nice as well. The great Chan Sung Jung. And he's a force. That was beautiful stuff. That was incredible. Well-rounded, fun. I mean, just absolutely amazing. Really impressive stuff from Doo Ho Choi, picking up the win over Nate Landwehr. Dominic Reyes beat Anthony Smith via ground and pound in the second round. A nice win for Dominic Reyes, a dominant win for Dominic Reyes. He continues his climb back to the heavyweight title picture. Had the win over Dustin Jacoby. This is another guy who could very well win comeback fighter of the year, considering everything he had been through in the 4-fight losing streak that he was on, including the controversial loss to John Jones. Had the win over Dustin Jacoby, which was really impressive back in June. And then, of course, tonight beating Anthony Smith. And there was, I'm happy for Dominic Reyes. Great guy still till this day. Believe that he beat John Jones, but couldn't help but feel, just absolutely heartbroken for Anthony Smith. We get word recently that his longtime coach and best friend, Scott Morton, had passed away last month unexpectedly via a heart attack. He was just 47 years young, and Anthony had done interviews and talked about how much it affected him, but that he was going to go out there and fight for him and train, and how they were doing this for him in his honor and dedicating everything that they're doing for him. And then you saw him afterwards; he just absolutely broke down, took off his gloves, took off his wraps, didn't quite officially say he was done, but said probably, I don't care what anyone says about Anthony Smith. In my opinion, one of the great guys in this sport, a respectful, thoughtful man who has had an unbelievable run. 37-21. That is 58 fights. And this is a guy who's had so many different chapters. There was a period where Anthony Smith could have just been a sort of like Midwest fighter, a Midwest regional fighter. And even in Strikeforce, wasn't really like wowing anyone. Was on, kind of a run, fighting on the prelims and some nice wins here, some losses there. And even when he gets into the UFC, he's not really like wowing anyone, but slowly but surely he works his way up. Remember, he leaves the UFC, he comes back, he's jumping around all these other promotions. He changes weight classes, has the great run, gets the title shot. And you kind of know the rest of the story, the ups and downs, the fights on short notice that he maybe shouldn't have taken, all that stuff. And just a guy who has persevered, who's turned into a great analyst, who's a part of the ESPN, MMA plans, has the show with Bisping, all that stuff and more. And just to see him at this point in that, in that state, it was heartbreaking. 36, but so many fights, 58 pro fights, and who knows how many others, in God knows where. Big power slap guy as well. Really felt for Anthony, and have no issues saying, have a ton of respect for him. Have been covering him for a long time, and it was depressing to watch that. And I'll just jump to another moment that was kind of hard to watch, and that was Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman losing in the second round. He was supposed to fight last month at MSG, and the fight against Eric Anders was postponed because of Anders, having food poisoning. And here they fight at 195, and to see Chris Weidman, the former middleweight champion, lose like that, lose in the second round via KO with his family, or TKO with his family in attendance, was hard to watch. Father Time undefeated. And that takes nothing away from Eric Anders. That takes nothing away from Dominic Reyes. But these are guys that I've personally covered. I know they're good people. I know they've done things the right way. And golly, both of them have been through so much. And Chris's road back to the UFC, painstaking. 30 surgeries, just unbelievable heart, will, and determination and perseverance. And very, very, very tough to see him in that state, but credit to Eric Anders picking up the biggest win of his career. That was lower on the card, but I kind of felt the same after both fights, so wanted to couple those together. Vicente Luque with an unbelievable anaconda choke win over Themba Gorimbo, the fastest win via anaconda choke in UFC history. Afterwards, calling out Jorge Masvidal. Thank God he wasn't fighting Nick Diaz. I don't want to see that fight. Themba takes the fight on short notice. He steps up and he gets caught. He gets dropped, and then a beautiful submission win for Vicente Luque, who is still kicking and now improves to 23-10-1. Movsar Evloev beat Aljamain Sterling. He's now 19-0. He's fighting on the prelims. Doesn't feel like he's knocking on the title shot door. He should be, considering who he's beating. Aljamain Sterling, I know, relatively new to the featherweight division, but still, it's Aljamain Sterling. Prior to that, the win over Arnold Allen. Prior to that, the win over Diego Lopez, and very good chance that Diego Lopez gets a title shot before him. Would love to see that again, by the way. I don't know if the UFC is rushing to do that. He may not be the most exciting fighter of all time, but I would say that was a very entertaining fight. The grappling exchanges were fun. The action was frenetic at times. It was fast paced. It was fun from the jump. It wasn't rock'em sock'em robots per se, but that was a very fun fight. I have no issues with Movsar Evloev fighting for a belt next, fighting the winner of Ilia Topuria versus Alexander Volkov, or fighting a Diego Lopez. Don't know if it will shake out that way, but 19-0. I believe, what is it? 7 wins in the UFC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 wins in the UFC. My apologies. And here you have the great Khabib Nurmagomedov backing that stance. 19-0 in MMA, 9-0 in the UFC. I think Movsar deserves his title shot. And yeah, it's hard to deny. There are certain times where, yes, you do have to give the title shot to the not so exciting fighter, if you will. We're seeing this with Magomed. We saw it with Bilal. We saw it with Leon. We've seen it with a ton of people. That was an exciting win. That was an exciting fight. I have no problem with it. And when you're 19-0 and then 9-0 in the UFC, in my opinion, you deserve it. I thought Aljamain handled things very classy afterwards on social media. He wrote something very nice. He continues to kind of, UFC has not done him any favors. The short turnaround against Sugar Sean, putting him on the prelims here, even him coming to featherweight, winning once and then jumping right in there against someone like Movsar. Not easy stuff. He falls to 24-5, but still very much a player in the UFC, if you ask me. Brian Battle missed weight by 4 pounds yesterday. He came in at 175, which was such a shame considering all the momentum, all the positive press, all the good vibes following his win over Kevin Jousset back in September. And he ends up having to give up a percentage of the purse. The fight continues. Randy Brown upset. He's never missed weight in his career. He reminded us of that on social media afterwards, and he lost via split decision. And this was a bit of a controversial one as well. I mean, for several reasons. Close fight. Brian missing weight that badly is a tough pill to swallow. If you're Randy Brown, he went ahead with the fight. Tough pill to swallow for him because he doesn't get paid, or at least doesn't get his full purse in addition to the 20% if he refuses the fight. Just ask Wonderboy Thompson and others as well. But it felt like Brian took a bit of a step back here from the positive momentum. You see him flipping up the crowd. He had a moment with the crowd as well. Wasn't quite the same magic as Paris. Here's Rude Boy Randy Brown saying 19 walks to the octagon alone, 6 on the regional scene. I've never missed weight, not one time, like a true pro. Brian knew he wasn't going to make the weight from the day before, but still let me suffer through a weight cut. These guys bite the bullet on percentage, then come in overweight on purpose so they can get a weight advantage on Fight Night. I'll be no more than 185 tomorrow. This is what he wrote yesterday. After the weigh-ins, I would bet he would be well over 200. How is that fair to me? Yeah, and this brings up the discussion. What do you do? Do you take a point away? Well, if they would have taken a point away in a fight like this, maybe it ends up completely different. Maybe it ends up being a draw. Maybe Randy wins compared to what ended up happening. Who the hell knows? But I don't feel like there's any momentum, any push to change the system. It seems like, give up a percentage. At least we're not doing as much the giving a percentage to the commission nonsense. That always seemed very strange to me. Why should the commission get paid for your transgression? If anyone should get paid, it's the opponent. And quite often we end up seeing, in fact, I was telling this to someone yesterday that I was speaking to about this particular scenario. Quite often we see the guy who misses weight badly win, and that's what we saw here with Brian Battle. Joshua Van beat Cody Durden. Great win for him. Another high action, fast paced flyweight fight. Michael Chiesa with a very impressive rear naked choke win over Max Griffin at 37. He celebrates his birthday. he improves to 18-7. First had him with one hand, and then just like it was a rear naked choke, but it wasn't like your traditional rear naked choke. I'm not going to pretend to be some BJJ expert here, but just the way he had it locked in off to the side like that was amazing. He loves that, or any type of variation of that. Again, another one of the good guys coming back from the Tony Ferguson win in August and looking really good against a very tough opponent in Max Griffin. So shout out to Michael Chiesa, who continues to get it done and gets it done on this particular night. On his birthday, Chase Hooper was supremely impressive, gets the submission win over Clay Guida, 5 years in the UFC this month, and there was such an age gap between the two of them, and he is really coming into his own. He's a dad now. He's getting that man strength, and you saw it against Clay Guida. Not sure how much is left for Clay Guida, who falls to 38-25. But obviously, Chase Hooper, the story here, they had grappled once before. Chase got the nod there, and he gets the nod once again. By the way, before I fully continue, not only was it Michael Chiesa's birthday, it was also the day after he got awarded his black belt. So that came in handy. And perhaps they could have given it to him after the fight. Not like some of those situations where someone gets a knockout and they get a black belt. A big weekend for Michael Chiesa, and very, very happy for him. And finally, the curtain jerker was Kennedy Nzechukwu getting another nice win at heavyweight. Solid stuff out of him, a first round knockout. He beats Lucas Bresky, and all of a sudden we're starting to see something with Kennedy Nzechukwu. Had the win over Chris Barnett back in October. Relatively quick turnaround here, and he is now on a little winning streak, 2 in a row for the big man at heavyweight. So that's the full card. That's everything that happened. Let me see if there's anything else that has happened. Yes, I'm just looking at the rest of the Dana White press conference stuff. Dana White saying that he believes Chris Weidman, Anthony Smith, and Clay Guida should all retire after their fights tonight. Also saying that he thought Alexander Volkov beat Cyril Gane and apologized to Alexander Volkov after the fight. He said that the head of the commission spoke to Dana White and that they felt that the second round was very close. As we were discussing, both guys got rocked and provided an explanation on why Gane got the nod. White talked about an altercation that Merab Dvalishvili got into. There's some footage that's on the internet right now after the Aljo loss to Evloev. It seemed like Merab and another member of the team got into it with a fan. Not great. Probably better not to get involved, especially as a UFC champion. But can't imagine what someone said to him after an emotional loss like that to spark something like that. Let me just see. Something here. White says he would love to bring over more fighters from Ryzen, and that Saki Kibara told them that many of their champions want to become the first to win titles in both promotions. That would be interesting. And speaking of some news, we did get a whole bunch of news. We did get that UFC 312, which is happening on February 8th in Sydney, Australia, has 2 title fights on it. We're getting Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, number 2. They fought the beginning of the year, first pay-per-view of the year in January in Toronto, and now they're going to run it back. So it seems like they're going to wait for the Khamzat title fight, and those two will run it back. And it's happening in Australia, which is where, of course, DDP just beat Israel Adesanya back in August, and where Sean Strickland beat Izzy in 2023, September of 2023. This will be Sean Strickland's 3rd title fight, 2 of them in Australia, 1 in Canada. Mr. America, for some reason, can't get a title fight in the United States. More exciting, if you ask me, is the fact that the co-main event is Zhang Weili defending her strawweight title against Tatiana Suarez. Now, what's interesting about this, Tatiana Suarez was supposed to fight on this card against Virna Jandiroba. She was our comeback fighter of the year last year. She has not fought in 2024. She's getting the title shot, and it's a title shot that we've wanted for 5-6 years. I have no problem with this. I can't wait to see it. It's the best fight to make at 115 pounds. It's an incredible fight on paper. It's a fun fight. It's a great test for Zhang Weili, who I feel like hasn't really been tested in her last two title fights, Amanda Lemos and Yan Xiaonan. But I just hope that she makes it to the fight, and I also hope if she wins that she could be an active champion. Historically, it's been a lot of cancellations, a lot of withdrawals, and that sucks. No one wants that. But I'm just glad that we're finally getting the title shot. It's not perfect to get it after, on the night that you were supposed to fight Virna Jandiroba in a year that you did not fight after a couple of withdrawals, one earlier in the year as well. But hey, she's getting it. It's the fight we want. It's big time stuff. And I can't wait to see it. Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez. That's February 8th. We also found out that on February 22nd, the UFC is going back to Seattle. No fights announced for that, but that was a great market for them back in the Fox days. And great to see them go back to the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Seattle, the Rain City. We did get a bunch of fights announced over the last couple of days for UFC 311. That's the next pay-per-view, Intuit Dome, Inglewood, California. We know about Issam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. That's the main event for the lightweight title. They did the press conference yesterday. Merab and Umar stole the show. They were tremendous at the press conference. A lot of hype surrounding that fight and those two title fights. In addition, Jalton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak, Prochaska versus Jamal Hill, Holland versus RDR. I don't remember which are the ones that got announced and which ones didn't get officially announced, but I do know that we got Renato Moicano versus Beneil Dariush, and that has been added to the 311 card, and that is going down on January the 18th. We also found out that Amanda Hebus versus Mackenzie Dern is going to be the first main event of the year, January 11th. So there's one more UFC pay-per-view, one more UFC fight night left this year, and that's next week, in exactly a week. Well, actually 6 days from now, because it is Sunday.
Yes, it is.
And that is going to be Colby Covington versus one Joaquin Buckley. Is there anything else you want to say, Frank, or will you forever hold your peace?
I don't have anything to say.
We have a busy slate of shows coming up. Is it weird no one said, like, hey, Ariel, congrats, first time we speak?
I, for one, am proud of your 15.
Oh, thanks.
Congrats on the text, Twitter comment,
in public,
comment.
Publics,
Oh, public, you mean like Instagram and Twitter as well?
No,
it's
show,
cool, man, for sure.
People.
No, congrats, actually, though. Incredible stuff.
No, thanks.
It's a great speech, man. I appreciate you shouting all of us out.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah.
For sure.
Jordan brought a cake in today that was amazing. Sorry, you
I
couldn't
did
get it.
shout out
Congrats, Ariel, and we had 15 candles on it.
We did everything.
Wow.
You
guys thought I was coming in?
Kazoos.
Yeah.
You guys thought I was coming in?
Yeah, we thought you were actually going to be here.
Yeah, we were ready to celebrate.
Shit.
I thought that was the
Monday.
Oh, Monday, okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, we'll see. Check the calendar. There's a lot going on.
You say Monday,
right.
It's tomorrow, bro. We'll see you tomorrow,
Yeah,
man.
we'll see.
All right.
We'll celebrate
See you
tomorrow.
That is the story as far as UFC 310 is concerned. Full reaction, along with Pete C, who is fast asleep, as he should be, because it's 5 a.m. over there in Ireland. Full reaction.
7. He might be up. He might be drinking some coffee
it is
right
7.
now.
My math is bad. Yes, he's probably having some... was he having an Irish breakfast? What's an Irish breakfast?
It's similar to an English breakfast, but Irish.
It's
Is
just
it
a
the same?
gallon of Guinness.
Oh, perfect. Well, good morning to you, Pete, and good morning to everyone who is joining us from Europe, or good afternoon if you're in Australia. Hope you enjoy your Sunday. Great job, guys, with the watch party. Fantastic stuff. Particularly enjoyed the bike riding. Shout out to our good friends at Averon. Congratulations, by the way. I'll throw out some congratulations to the SEC champion, Georgia Bulldogs.
Fucking right, baby. Let's go. Beat
that's
Texas
right.
twice.
So,
beat Frank's Longhorns twice, man. Horns down. There you go.
We don't care. That's right. Commiserations to one Darren Till on losing out on the Tommy Fury fight. More reaction on that to come. Jamal and Alex, we'll talk about that on Monday. How about that? We've got a ton of things to talk about. For now, though, it is late, so let us say goodnight. Please continue to give us a thumbs up. Also, hit the notification. Follow us on Spotify. Wrap it up, as they say, with the Spotify wrap. Apple is a good place to get podcasts too. And what else? DJ has continued to text me, and the final text I'll just sum up, just to end everyone's night on the perfect note. I'm truly not coming back. I think
you're saying there's a chance.
I think that's definitive. But let's see. I mean, Dana White's interested, so let's see. Everyone's got a price. Like the great Ted DiBiase once said, every man has a price. Pantoja, male fighter of the year?
Nope.
No, but
No.
goddamn, that guy's good.
I thought you guys might say. I mean,
Not even in the conversation.
No, he's not. But
why? Taporia two wins.
those 2 wins.
Taporia did not beat Steve Erceg and Kai Asakura. He beat
That's right.
Max Holloway and Alexandre Volkanovski and finished them both brutally.
Thumbs up to the chat. W's to the chat. How about that? W's to the chat. Yeah, that's what the kids say. They say it. I got to tell you guys about the meal that I had on Friday. Maybe we'll do that on Monday.
Should I take the music out? Or?
No. I'm just
You
wasting time
tomorrow
as the
about
music's
it?
playing. Yeah, I'll tell you on.
Well, now I'm excited.
On Monday. Oh, it's one of the great
Tomorrow,
meals.
bro.
Just like this was one of the great cards. Enjoy your Sunday, my friends. Congrats to all. Back on Monday, same time, places. Peace.